Hey guys, it's Keisha, and today I'm here with my June. I had an incredible reading month in June. I read some really good books, and I read a lot of them. I read a total of 15 books this month. So between Month of Madsen, the Rainbow-thon, all of that going on, I just plowed through some books, and yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So the first book that I completed this month for Month of Madsen was Amy and Roger's Epic Detour. Our main character, Amy, whose father has just passed away and her family is moving across country to start over. Well, she has to basically bring her mom their car, and she teams up with the boy from her childhood that she doesn't really know to come across country with them. And it is fun and it is summery. And what I've learned about Morgan Matsen's writing this month is her books, they're good and you enjoy them as you're going along, but they just slowly like curl up into your heart. So by the end of the book, like your heart just feels like it's going to explode. And I really enjoyed this book. The next book I finished for Month of Madsen was Since You've Been Gone. And this follows our main character, Emily. And Emily and her best friend Sloane have a summer all planned out until one day Sloane and her family go missing. After Emily realizes that Sloane is gone, she receives a letter in the mail from Sloane with 13 things that Sloane wants Emily to do over the summer. Definitely really enjoyed this book. Their friendship is so sweet, and I just absolutely adored this book. This book for Month of Madsen I have is Second Chance Summer. And I'm actually currently reading this one right now. It is I'm about 60% through with it. And I will finish this one probably today. So I can't give you a full synopsis or my full rating on it because I haven't finished it. But basically this follows our main character, Taylor. And Taylor's dad has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And they basically go back to their summer lake house because he only has 3 months to live, and they want to spend those last 3 months of summer together as a family. But when Taylor goes to the lake house, she has friends that she had a lot of things unresolved with before. So this book's very much about like family and second chances, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So the next book that I read this month was The Air by Kara Cass, and I have very mixed feelings about this book. I absolutely love this selection. That is no stranger to anyone. I talk about it all the time on my channel, is how much it's my guilty pleasure. And The Air came out and I was so excited about it. And I'm kind of, like I said, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. I really like Edelyn. I really do. She kind of reminds me of Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl. I don't really know how much I feel about guys in the selection. I didn't really connect with any of them, so I didn't find myself rooting for any of them except for Kyle. But I feel like the way it was set up, you should be rooting for a lot more than just Kyle. I still definitely really enjoyed it, not as much as the selection series, but I think this one is going to end up being a duology, so I really can't wait to get the next one. So the next book that I read was actually a book that was sent to me by a publisher, so thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to read that, and that is Everything by Nicola Yoon. I loved this book. This was probably one of my favorite books that I read this month. It was so much fun. In this book, our main character is allergic to everything. Basically, she's a bubble girl. She's never ever left her house, and till one day a boy moves in next door that catches her attention, and things escalate from there. Oh my gosh, this book was just amazing. This book does not release until September 1st, but whenever it comes out, I highly recommend everyone reading it because it is so good. I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was actually another book that was sent to me from a publisher, and that was Never Be Younger, a YA anthology. I read this one actually to fulfill my May TBR challenge to read a book that was not a novel. Thank you to the publishers for sending me this book. However, I really did not enjoy it at all. Basically, Never Be Younger is a collection of short stories that are retellings of Shakespearean plays. And I did not I think there was like one that I actually enjoyed out of all of them. If you go to my Goodreads, you can see I kind of gave a review on every short story. But no, I think I ended up giving this like a 2 or 3 out of 5 stars. So definitely did not enjoy. The next book that I picked up was actually my graphic novel for the month. And it was actually, I ended up picking up a manga and not a graphic novel, which I've never read a manga before. And it was different, let me tell you. and I picked up Death Note Volume 1 of the Black Edition. The story follows our main character, Light, and he comes across a death note, which is basically a notebook where if you write someone's name into the notebook, they die. He uses this as to be sort of a vigilante and start trying to kill off all criminals or wrongdoers. It's one of the stories where the good and evil are kind of blurred because you don't really know which side to root for. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to pick up the next volume. What I read was actually a book to fulfill one of my challenges, and that is to read a banned book. So I picked up The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've always heard obviously amazing things about The Great Gatsby, and I love the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, but I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did. It's so short, so if you have not read it and you're kind of iffy about classics, this is an amazing story. I highly enjoyed it. So this one, after Dracula, becomes my second favorite classic of all time. So the next book that I read was to fill my TBR jar pick for June, and that was to read a book with over 500 pages. For this, I picked up Beautiful Chaos by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. I honestly, at this point, do not know why I am still reading the series. I didn't like Beautiful Creatures. I didn't like the second book. I didn't particularly like this book, but now I feel like that I'm 3 out of 4 books in. I might as well finish Beautiful Redemption, which is like right over there on my bookshelf. The book was so slow. I could only read it like 20 pages at a time, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I think I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars because for some reason I still really read these books and I don't understand it. So the last book that I picked up before the Reading Rainbow readathon started was Love Letters to the Dead by Ava Delaria. I've heard a lot of negative reviews about this because it's compared a lot to Perks of Being a Wallflower. I haven't read Perks yet, so I thought that I would go ahead and pick it up because this cover is probably one of the most stunning covers I've ever seen in my life. And I enjoyed this book. I think I ended up giving it like a 4 out of 5 stars. Character Laurel, for school projects, writes a letter to a famous dead person. And she this kind of kicks off a whole series of writing letters to her. Her sister has recently passed away, and so she kind of picks dead famous people who relate back to her sister, and she kind of uses it as an outlet to talk about her sister and losing her. And it is a very poignant read, and I really did enjoy it. It really picks up at the end. So then we got into the Reading Rainbow readathon, and I got a little too ambitious. I thought that I would have all this time to read all these giant books in a week, and that didn't happen. So I only ended up reading 4 books for the readathon, which is not bad since it was 6 days long and I worked like 5 out of those 6 days. So I still think I did really good. So the first book that I read for the Rainbow-thon was my red book, and that was Linger by Andrew Smith. I did not expect to love this book as much as I did. It started out really slow for me, but then towards the end, it's an emotional punch to the gut. This follows our main character, Ryan Dean, and he attends a boarding school where he is the youngest person in his class. He's kind of like a genius, so he's a 14-year-old junior, and this kind of just deals with him trying to figure out friendships and relationships, being so much younger than everybody else in his class. It's very good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The book that I picked up was my orange book, and that is The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This is the first book in the Chaos Walking trilogy. And I had big expectations for this book, like huge expectations. Reagan at Peruse Project talks about this book all the time, or the series, and how it's one of the best young adult series of all time. I don't know. I found it a little weird. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars because the end really picked up for me, but I don't know. It follows our main character, Todd, and Todd lives in a world where everyone can hear everyone else's thoughts. No women left in this world. It was just, the dialect was really hard for me to catch on to, and the story was just a little too weird for me. Like I said, I really did end up enjoying the end, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but I was a little disappointed because it was super hyped up in my mind. It was my yellow book, and for that I picked The Silver Linings Playbook by Matthew Quick, and I loved it. I was completely blown away by how much I enjoyed this book, and I did not expect to. It follows our main character, Pat, as he's getting out of a psych ward after being there for several years. And he meets a girl named Tiffany who kind of changes things for him. He's still kind of dealing with mental illness, so there is a trigger warning for mental illness with this book. However, I think that it is done so respectfully and so well that you actually really understand Pat better than you do like in the movie. Because I did rewatch the movie after I read this, and I really enjoyed the movie like so much more than I did because I just got a better understanding of the characters that I didn't get the first time watching it. So if maybe you've seen the movie and it wasn't a home run for you, I highly recommend you picking up the book because it just explains so much of why Pat is the way he is, and I really enjoyed it. And the last book that I have today, and the last book that I read for the readathon, was my green book. That was The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This book, oh my gosh, this book was my favorite book by far all month. And I'm going to say that it's taken the #2 spot of my favorite book I've read all year. This follows our main character, Leah. And Leah is a princess who has been kind of forced into an arranged marriage. However, on the day of her wedding, she runs away with her maid and they go to a town where no one knows who they are. However, 2 men come to this town looking for Leah, the prince who she was supposed to marry and the assassin sent to kill her. You read this book through all 3 of your points of views. However, up until the very end of the book, you don't know who's the prince or who's the assassin. And I thought I had it all figured out. I really did. This book just completely took me by surprise. And I'm kind of grateful that I waited so long to read it because The Heart of Betrayal comes out July 7th. And I cannot wait to pick it up. Alright guys, well that is all that I have for you. This video is probably super long because I read so many books. But yeah, let me know what your favorite book was you read this month. Let me know if you've read any of those books and you share any similar opinions with me. I would love to hear from you guys. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.